Press the live button.
Oh, oops.
Have a seat.
I thought we had 2 minutes.
No, that was 2 minutes ago. Move this over here. Hey, everybody.
Welcome.
Look at that screen. Look at this screen.
I'm looking at the camera.
Is there anybody? Oh, yes, that's where we should be looking.
That's where it should be, right in front of the screen. Do both.
It's Gary's Guitars.
It's officially in New England, I should preface. We have 5 seasons.
Yeah.
Summer, fall, winter, almost spring, and spring. It's officially almost spring. March 2nd.
Well, you forgot about fall spring.
Oh,
There's fall spring, which we had recently.
yeah.
And
But
now
that's so
it's,
brief. It doesn't, I don't know if it deserves to be called a season. But yeah,
There's
the 60-degree day in January.
second summer.
Yeah.
I think there's a few more than 5 seasons. There's early winter. That's in the
Right.
September. Second summer in October. Yeah. So, hey everybody, it's Gary's Guitars Guitar Talk.
Move the camera.
I did, yeah.
There's a-
I'm trying to get you into the frame.
Oh,
There we go. Guitar Talk from Gary's Guitars. Welcome. We sit here, we talk about guitars and guitar things,
yeah.
amps,
Almost every week.
cases, almost every week, except we did miss last week. I decided to celebrate 1 year of Guitar Talk by taking a week off.
And not doing it.
And it worked out all right, I'd say, but no, but I did miss everybody. So thanks for coming back and thanks for saying hi. Got some regulars already chiming in the room. What else? Oh yeah, we have to address this. Hold on.
Is this the giveaway?
The box of cool stuff.
We did get a number of addresses from people.
We did get a number of
Watchers.
entries.
And Marc has filled up a box of stuff. I think it's all guitar related stuff
It's all stuff that
or
is-
Gary's guitar related stuff. And it's being shipped off to the lucky winner.
it's all stuff that is currently in the guitar store because it is currently in the guitar store.
Well, a couple of those things are going to be gone for good.
Yeah, there's a couple of very unique things that will never be back. It's got our logo on it. It's a box of cool stuff. And if you shake it, there's a Dunlop shaker in there because that's my favorite shaker. We
Wow.
sell those here at the store. But there's a bunch of stuff in here.
Well, they may not think that's a guitar related thing, but the best use of them is you put it in your right hand and hold it while you're picking.
While you're strumming. They actually make picks that have a shaker
Oh, do
attached to
they?
it now. Yeah.
This works, yeah.
Yeah. So it's a guitar related thing as well. And so the winner is Albert from Round Lake, New York.
Congratulations, Albert. Thank you.
And
for,
so
responding.
here's a box.
Where
It'll
in New
be
York?
yours soon.
What was the name of that?
Round Lake.
It must be up in the Lakes region.
It's around the lake. It's which one? Because the Finger Lakes are shaped like fingers, so it's not a
Right.
Finger Lake.
Right.
It's a round
I
lake.
suppose there's other lakes in New York.
It's a lakey place actually. They invented lakes up there.
Mm.
Little known fact. All right, so Bob Sullivan's here, Paul and William Leshkin. Forgive me when I butcher people's names. So we're here to talk about guitars, guitar-related things. You just come on and talk about whatever you want to talk about. Steve and Mike Endicott's here, and
Hey,
the
Mike.
other Mike is here, and lots of mics there tonight. It's a room full of mics.
Have to ask Mike, are you guys okay in Hungary?
Yeah, no,
Not too far from the
the
Ukraine.
Russian forces have not yet descended on Hungary,
Right.
which is actually, believe it or not, okay, so like no joke, I'm taking this pretty hard. I'm not really going to try to talk about the Russian thing right now because
He's married to a Russian woman.
so my wife is from Russia. My son is half Russian. I lived in Russia my mother-in-law's in Moscow. I lived in Russia for off and on for 4 years, more than, I've been there a lot. I speak Russian. And I lived in Ukraine, and I lived in one of the cities that's being bombed right now in Kiev and Kharkiv, which they call Kharkiv in Ukrainian, but it's a Russian language town, and that's where I went to college there for a little while. And so I've seen buildings that I've been in bombed out, and it's just bumming me out, of course. But I'm not going to talk about that from that perspective. But I am introducing this in the perspective of people are asking me about tubes.
I was going to say, is there anybody buying Softec tubes right now?
So I would say, and this is an estimate, 80% of the guitar amplifier tubes are made in Saratov in Russia. It is I don't know if it's on the Asian side of the Urals. It's right by the Ural Mountains. It's an industrial town. To just talk about tubes for a minute, it's where Electro-Harmonics, Softec started there, and Softec was a kind of a partnership. Mike Matthews was buying tubes and reselling them in the U.S., and then he scraped up the dough, about $1 million to buy the whole place.
Back in the
90s, late 90s or something maybe. It seemed like a lot of money at the time, but he's cornered the world market on tubes. He sells to Fender, which are Fender's Groove Tube. Fender puts all their tubes in their amps. They sell to a lot of what I call OEM, whatever, like companies that rebrand them with their own brand. Paul and I were staring at some Mesa tubes recently, and they're the Russian EL 84s. They have such a distinctive looking plate and size and everything. They're identical. They're not using the Chinese tubes now. They're using the Russian. Well, they were using the Russian tubes. So companies like Fender and Mesa Boogie and a lot of big amp companies depend on these tubes. I was talking to Owen Matthews on the phone a couple of days ago, and he was like, "Hey, bro," because he just has this way of talking. He's like, "Hey, bro, what's up with your buddies in Moscow? Or what's up with your buddies in Russia?" And I'm like, "I don't know,
about your buddies in Russia."
Yeah, and he was like, "Yeah, well, there's a," and I was like, "Are people like hoarding tubes? Should I be hoarding tubes?" And his what he said to me was, they're not letting people hoard tubes. Kind of. He's like, when someone calls up and orders $5,000 worth of tubes, he's like, "You guys usually get $500 worth of tubes,
right?
So why don't you just get what you usually, just talking people out of, just trying to hoard things up, because there's going to be an interruption in tube supplies. It's not going to be an end to the tube supplies, but it's going to get difficult to pay for the the American company to pay the Russian half of the company. It's going to get difficult to logistical transportation.
Right.
I listened to something today where they talked about container companies. The companies that actually own the containers aren't doing business with Russia, meaning the container, all the stuff goes in, isn't going to arrive on a boat, and then it's not going to leave Russia on another boat. It's going to be tough.
Yeah. I mean, it's shocking how many countries are incorporating sanctions.
Yeah, sanctions. Yeah. The sanction stuff. Corporations are just coming out on their own. Apple is sanctioning Russia, even though the U.S. isn't officially sanctioning them on technology. Apple said no more Apple.
Right.
So it's it
sounds like a riot right there when people buy their new iPhones.
Yeah. Russians love their iPhones. So not to harp on that too much, but I just want to tell the tube forecast. Now, JJ tubes are from Slovakia, I do believe, right?
It used to be Czechoslovakia or then Czech Republic. So whatever.
No, it's not the Czech Republic now. I think it's from the Slovakian half. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyways, JJ tubes are not affected by any sanctions or anything. And
they're in the EU, right?
I was just talking to CE, where we get JJ tubes from, and they're like, we're gonna, we expect them to get short supply, because once the Electro-Harmonics tubes run out,
right,
then people are going to be ordering JJs like crazy. So we ordered some JJs
like crazy.
No, I can't. It's going to be all right in the end, folks. But that's tube talk for today. Well, what's politically, we don't know what's going to be all right. But even if there are sanctions, Russians can still sell things to the West. We're just not selling things to them. So the Russian made tube, and the Russians are going to have to sell things. So Russian made tubes will still make it to our market, and there's no sense in boycotting them, because Electro-Harmonics is in New York, and they own the factory in Russia, and they do pay some taxes in Russia. But other than that, it's all the New York.
Right.
So don't think I'm going to smash my Russian-made tubes because I'm sick of what's going on. They're Electro-Harmonics. They're a bunch of New York dudes, like truly, like with the accents and everything. They are, they are downtown guys. and if all else fails, we'll send Mike Matthews over there to straighten things out. He's.
What do you say? There's some famous pictures of him with the Russian woman dressed up in the.
Oh yeah, that was in their marketing campaign in the 80s or 90s.
What he called her generals. Don't mess with her.
There's someone. Yeah, there's a woman in a military uniform that he was in the picture with. Yeah.
Right.
He's an old school dude. All right, so that's tube talk for today. What's next, folks in the room? Did you have any topics for today, Gary? Hello? Is this thing on?
No.
Okay. Someone suggest
I thought of one, but I'm going to have to prepare it for next time.
Oh, really?
It requires writing things down and thinking about it.
Okay. Well, there's a those Mike Matthews 9-volt EV pedals are awesome. Yeah, so Mike Matthews with his where he's got his guns out. On the 9-volt batteries. Yeah, that's that guy is something. And he's actually trying to, we talked about this one night when Jake was on the show because he's doing some kind of like scientific research on the magnetosphere and tapping into the magnetosphere of the Earth for an unlimited supply of energy.
Yeah, right, okay.
He's working on that.
He's done some other things. So,
at
this point, who knows who's going to save the world? Maybe it's Mike Matthews.
Oh yeah, Keegan here, and this is a question we got before as well. Putting guitar speakers in a bass cab, or bass speakers in a guitar cab, or any of that kind of stuff. Let's talk about speaker cabs because this was a question we had from 2 weeks ago. I forgot to answer.
Oh, I don't remember hearing it.
So. It was after the fact, and then I forgot to bring it back. Oh. Okay, so
sure,
but okay.
Actually, yeah. You can play your bass through any speakers, to a point. Many people use a Fender Twin with a couple of heavy-duty speakers, and they play bass through it. Fine. But when it starts to distort, which it will at maybe 4 or 5 or 6 on the volume, it's about to blow the speakers, probably. So...
Yeah, I mean, bass speakers are made differently. They're made to handle more low end. They're made heftier.
Right. And
so actually, when we talk about like I talk about the one that got away. I bought it from you 20 years ago. Fender 215 basement cab.
Oh, not the refrigerator one.
No, it was shorter.
The good one.
Yeah, so they have one, the 212s on top of each other,
right,
which is a huge cab. Then they had 215s that were positioned like this.
Right.
And that was a great cab for guitar.
Yeah.
I miss it. And but the speakers, the basement speakers in 1970 are essentially guitar speakers. They're not like what we think of today as bass speakers.
So just wattage. I mean, the typical bass speaker that's any good is at least 150 watts.
You gotta have a lot of headroom. Yeah.
I don't know if there is a 150 watt guitar speaker. 100 is way too much for most people. So just that will tell you.
Okay. So yeah, that's the. So I guess hopefully there was insight in there. Yes, that yes, you can play bass through guitar speakers. If you have an open back cab, you might want to put it against the wall because
and it's a closed back cab.
Yep, and then you get a closed back cab, and that will have better bass response.
That's from Leo Fender.
Yep.
Why do you make all your cabs open back? Well, so if you want closed back, you push it against the wall. Oh, both.
Pouring Russian vodka down the drain is terrible. Yes, I guess when we're talking about sanctions, don't throw away your vodka.
Well, I did hear, I don't know much, if anything, about vodka, but Smirnoff and another major brand that I was familiar with are actually made in the United States.
They're not Russian. The best vodka is Russian, however, and but you can drink some SS Pierce in the meantime.
Right.
if you're boycotting. But existing actual vodka that you've already bought, there's nothing pouring down the drain will not defeat Putin. So, any experience with DV Marc solid state amps? And this is Marshall, Ohio, who we talked to before on the show because he's an amp dude. He loves amps.
DV Marc.
Yep, and he likes some of the contemporary. He was talking about the quilters and stuff like that before.
Yeah.
So no, there's a whole new crop of this Class D amplification solid state world is just like high tech, great sounding amps everywhere.
And they don't use tubes.
They don't use tubes. They don't use transformers. Yeah, that's the other. Yeah, if you're worried about not getting tubes, get a Tone Master.
Of course, they run on chips, which are a little dicey too. But
chips are dicey. Speaking of electro-harmonics, we've been waiting since before Christmas for the Ocean's 11 reverb pedal. Every time I call them once a week, every time I call them, I'm like, when's the Ocean's 11 coming in?
No chips.
He's like, we're just waiting on those chips. We got them all ready. We just got to pop that chip in and ship them out. We got the boxes painted and everything. They're ready to go. They know they're behind on it, but they can't get the chips. Oh, here's Mike in Hungary.
Yes.
Remember when the Cool Tones rolled my 4x12 Sound City bass cab down the stairs at Thumbs in Concord? Yes.
Yes, it was. Mike had a 4x12
bass cab.
Played bass through it.
Okay.
And Thumbs, you back the van up in the alleyway out back, through a door, then down about 20 steps pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I don't know who. Somebody was in the van handing stuff over, and somebody was on the way down the stairs, and he meant to put it, and it tumbled down the stairs. Oh, well, picked it up. One of the magnets had broken off. It was rattling around in there. Oh, well, plugged in, worked.
Loading in. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
So, I'm sure it was running on 3 speakers.
At least, at the most.
We did destroy a few things in that band.
With Fender guitar prices ranging from $200 to $10,000 for a master build, much more for a vintage, which is the better value? The better value in Fender guitars.
What are the 3 choices again? Master build?
Well, master build, just a regular old Fender off the street, and a vintage Fender.
Oh, you mean like a real old guitar?
Yeah, look at it. Oh. If I was spending $10,000 on a Fender, I'd buy the old one.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, as far as value is, the master built ones, we sold a couple here, in the used market, and they're great. They're as good as the old ones, but the one thing about the old ones is they're not making any more of them.
Right.
There will be no more. There are no more 1969 Telecasters.
Yeah, that 59 Jazzmaster went pretty
fast. Yeah,
there was no quibbling over.
It wasn't cheap. No, he was like, "Can you come down the price?" And I'm like, "No." He goes, "Okay, I'll take it."
Okay.
Because he was ready to like grind on me for it. He was like, yeah, can you come? Because he was like asking for $1,000 less, and maybe he'd come up halfway or whatever. And I'm like, no, it just came in here. It's a consignment, so
like 2 days or something.
Yeah, right. It was here for a week. It's fine. Like maybe in 3 months would come down the price. He's like, okay, no, I'll take it.
Well, I think dollar for dollar, in the $1,000 range, you can still buy a 20, 30-year-old American Telecaster like we just sold for $999. It's really nice.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
that might, if you don't have $10,000.
Well, if you're talking about value, because they all work, right? All the guitars are fine.
They're all fine.
Some kind of good. You often hear the stories about people who fall in love with Spire Affinity series, guitars, and they're like, I just like this guitar.
Right. I mean, 20 years ago, there were a lot of guitars to avoid in the world, mostly made in Asia somewhere, because they weren't very good. But now they're all fine. Even at $129, they're fine. So there.
Because Mike said because no one wanted to carry it and a magnet fell off the speaker. Yeah, that's what he.
Is that what happened? I think I was down at the bottom of the stairs.
Yeah. You almost hit you.
Yeah, probably trigger threw it at Mike or something.
You carry it. No, you carry it. The master built guitars and the custom shop stuff, really pretty excellent as far as I can tell. Like they rival quality wise. They definitely rival the vintage guitars.
Right. Well, I think they're probably the only Fenders that are being made out of the best available woods.
Yep,
they're pretty much made by one guy, maybe two.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're doing. Keeping an eye on every detail.
There is a waiting list for them. Even like we had a customer asking about a Gretsch. That would be pretty high end Gretsch, kind of master built or whatever.
Right.
Like, and the wait's 5 years on that. Some of the master build people can choose their builder sometimes when they order.
Oh, really?
Some people have a better reputation than others.
Yeah.
So you can wait 3 to 5 years for a master built Fender right now.
Yeah, not unusual.
Dan from Germany says hi. Hello.
Hi,
Looking to buy my new nephew, Braden, a guitar to jam with. He's 10 years old. 3/4 or full size? Probably 3/4.
10 years. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Electric or acoustic?
Yeah, that's
jamming usually implies electric.
Yeah.
To me, but
so acoustic. That's Stephen McElroy, that's my brother Stephen.
Right.
And you should buy a guitar for your nephew John first. No, he's covered on the guitar.
I bet he's got a guitar already, or at least a ukulele, right?
Yeah, well, he's got a bunch of musical instruments. We're just playing the piano today. He loves playing the piano with me. I play the bass side. He plays the treble side. He just had a lot of fun. So yeah, 3/4 size the Fender FA, which we sell here. 3/4 size acoustic is fine. Nice. Yeah.
Sold that used Strat Mini
last
week. Yeah,
I was just gonna recommend that one. Yeah.
Yeah. Those are good.
The older ones, we're a Fender dealer. We're supposed to say everything they make is great. The older version of the Strat Mini is a better guitar. The new ones are, when that one came in, it's heavy as hell.
Yeah.
But it's a real guitar.
Right.
Yeah. The new ones, they're real, of course, but I don't know. I like the old one quite a bit. The one from a few years back.
Right.
I shouldn't be saying that because
it's like wine. 2017.
Yeah, that's the age. Yeah, that's the year they
18,
got them.
They're a little wobbly there.
Well, I've noticed, sometimes they change the Fender deals with probably about 4 factories in Asia, I'm guessing. This is just a guess. And once in a while, the country manufacturer will change. So this latest crop of the Streamliner Jet Juniors is coming from Indonesia, not China. And they're a little different. And I think I like them. It's heavier, but there's something about it that makes me like that guitar. So it could be a year thing, year by year.
Maybe.
Yeah. Jeff asks, looking for an amp to use with my acoustic violin. What tube amp would you recommend? Not going to be gigging any or anything big. Home and small club stuff. I'm on a budget. Thanks ahead of time.
Princeton Reverb. Why not?
I'm on a budget, though.
Oh, budget. Budget tube amp. Kalamazoo 1.
Okay, so guitar amps for violin, you might want, it's electric violin, you said, but still, guitar amps are not engineered for those notes.
Tonally, it's like a mandolin, basically.
Yeah.
It's pretty high frequency. But.
So, on the budget, Blues Junior, maybe? Yeah. I think maybe the scoop on a Blues Junior would work to your benefit for a violin. It would give you kind of a high pass filter a little bit.
I think any decent sounding amp will be fine.
Yeah, as long as you're going to have to turn the treble down because it's going to squeak. Because once you electrify a violin, it just jumps out on the high end. Yeah.
Oh, do they?
They tend to. But yeah, it depends on price range because a Blues Junior now is $700.
Is that 3? That was last year.
Yeah, no, not 300, but I was going to say 650. I don't know what. $700, $699, $649 or $699, depending on the which one.
Of course, a used one maybe for
used one for
$5.
Yeah, used ones used to be $350. Now you can't sell a used one for $350 if they're new for $600. So
might be too big though, just for home use.
Yeah,
probably only needs 8 watts. So.
Yeah,
Princeton.
The Fender, actually, if you're really on a budget, buy a used Fender Champ Xd. Remember the Champ XD?
Is that the tube one with digital effects?
The small tube one,
Yeah.
digital effects. They were pretty cheap. We sold a bunch of them. They stopped making them.
Why?
Because they were selling too well and they were too cheap. And now they're making the Champ reissue, which is now $700.
Right.
And it's essentially the same thing. So
Right.
find a used Champ XD. That would be the.
I remember those.
Steven says, I'm not buying a guitar for John. Okay. Could you, could like at a monoprice stage right amp, which is about $250, it's a tube amp. The Fender Champion 600, definitely not the Fender Champion 600, and I'll tell you why. Because the Champion 600 was, we sold one here used, maybe to Mike. And it's a great guitar amp, but Steve Roy tried playing fiddle through it, and it was not good for fiddle.
Oh, really? Oh.
Just it has that little. It's meant to distort.
It's like an 8-inch speaker.
Yeah, it has a little 8-inch speaker, and it's meant to be like an old, Silvertone kind of amp thing. It's meant to honk at you a little bit, and that's not what that does not benefit the violin. You really got to get clarion tone. Yes. So yeah, that is Mike. Mike. Mike.
I know lots of Mikes.
Yeah,
Big Mike?
No, not Big Mike. Mike.
Mike in Budapest?
No, the other Mike.
Mike who buys a lot of guitar.
It has a high and low input. Yeah, that's true, but still they're pretty similar. The monoprice amp is a copy of a Laney. Okay.
Somebody, Bobby, the other day, he got a monoprice something.
Yeah.
He was looking at one of the little used amps here, and he already had the monoprice, but he was thinking maybe it wasn't but he liked it just as well, and it was $99 or something.
Yeah, something crazy cheap. Yeah. Monoprice is a weird company, but the fundamentals of a tube amp. That's why we have this used custom for $129. The custom tube amps, the off-brand tube amps. Tube amps were invented 100 years ago for guitar, probably. First guitar amps, probably 100 years ago.
Yeah, the 30s. So
30s, 90 something.
No, 85.
It's not high tech. So, it's a transformer, some tubes, and resistors and capacitors, and you can make one in your kitchen. So for that level of technology, they can be made cheaply, and especially with manufacturing technology the way it is, they make a circuit board now, and they just dip it in parts, and it's done, assembled by computers.
Longevity is the issue.
Yeah,
I think for things like monoprice stuff. It was a Behringer thing. Yeah, it sounds fine, and 6 months later, it's broken, and it's not worth fixing because the parts are so expensive.
Or they all they all fail after 2 years.
Right.
It's like, oh, yep, that's one of those.
Oh.
There's a design flaw in the input jack, and they all fail. So, it's whatever, $60 to fix it because we got to disassemble it, fix it, put it back together, and then I just paid $99 for it.
Get another one. So it's kind of like renting an amp for a couple of years, and then you rent another one.
Okay, so according to Mike, the monoprice amp I have is 15 watts, switchable to 1 as a reverb tank. Master volume comes with JJ tubes. JJ tubes are expensive.
Yeah.
Which is odd that they would. JJ tubes. JJ tubes are made in Slovakia. These amps are made in China. China makes their own tubes.
Yeah, somebody's got a rubber stamp.
They might be licensed from JJ or some weird thing like that, or but they're probably Chinese made because JJs are kind of expensive.
Well, Chinese, they don't care about copyrights and patents and stuff.
Yeah,
that's just last I heard. So
whatever,
we like what you make, we're copying it.
Yeah, and Mike says he'll bring it by to check out. Yeah, I wouldn't mind checking that out for sure. The small super amp might be fun or a new Harmony amp. I got to check out the new Harmony amps. The new Harmony, I
making little tube amps again.
I guess so, according to people, and they're making guitars in Kalamazoo.
Okay.
Kalmazoo. Kalamazoo. You know that song? Anybody?
Is that actually a song?
It is. Yeah, it was the Benny Goodman. Yeah, I think it was Benny Goodman's
Really?
big band.
Boy, I missed that one.
That's after Pennsylvania 65000 was
Yeah.
so popular. They had to have another song where
Yeah.
the band sang something.
Kalamazoo.
Yeah.
Chattanooga Choo Choo. I remember that.
The small super amp. Yeah, small super amps are great. They're a little pricey these days. They are not giving those away.
No. Those are, they start at $600 or so.
I think it was one of the companies that supplies to us had them. I'm like, they look great. They sound great. I'll take them. How much? And it's like the amp that sell, because they do this thing where they put everything on super sale around Christmas too. So like, I don't know, the amp that sells for $700 we can buy for $550, and it wouldn't be so bad if shipping wasn't $50 to get it here, and then someone buys with a credit card, and there's the first $30, and then like
yeah, I think I made $50 on that.
Maybe made $50, yeah, or then you got to warranty it and back it up, and yeah. So we were unable to sell Super O because of their margins were tight, but also they're asking for more money for that stuff now. So
I remember when they came out and seeing the ads and calling somebody who was a dealer, and okay, well, this is a great idea. They're cool, and you say they're really well made, but they cost more than an old one.
Yeah.
Why would I buy a new copy of the original for $200 more? I don't get
some of that's going on with the new Champ.
Hmm.
You can still buy a Champ for $700, or you can buy the new Champ for $700.
Right.
Champs are pretty. They never changed the Champ much.
Yeah, I think it's one of the few that survived all the way through CBS.
All the way through the CBS, right to the end of the CBS.
It works fine. Leave it alone.
Yeah, don't bother they never cheaped out on it. They never changed the design or anything. Yeah.
Well, there was a Super Champ, but a totally different beast.
No, yeah, right, yeah. That was in the 80s thing, wasn't it?
Yeah. Master volume, heavy duty speaker, like 14 watts or something. Was their response to Mesa Boogie and all that. But
Rickenbacker and Vega were some of the first amps. I suspect high-end home stereo speakers might be good for fiddle. That was Mike. So he's just telling us about the birth of amplifiers. And then, fiddle. Although the tweeters and stereo speakers might be too good for fiddle. So I have some friends who play electric fiddle. And they usually use a loud box. The Fishman loud box mini. I think Jason Anik has one.
Yeah.
I think Claudia Landell has one. She's around here playing electric fiddle. It's a great amp because you want your guitar amp to like take the sound of your guitar and mess with it. Right? Get that mid-range boost, get everything feeding back and going nuts. You want your fiddle amp, you want your pedals to do that on the fiddle, but you don't want
fiddle sound.
You want this to sound like a fiddle when you're done with it, I think. Right. So, actually, if you handed me an electric fiddle and told me to play it through an amp, I would choose the Loud Box Mini.
Sure, makes sense. I mean, it is an acoustic instrument.
It's an acoustic amplifier. Mm-hmm. All right, but enough fiddle talk. This is guitar talk. This is our halfway through. You've come to Guitar Talk. Here are Gary's Guitars. We talk about guitars and guitar things, tubes, amps, fiddles.
We do fiddle around.
We fiddle around quite a bit.
Mostly.
I fiddle with the fiddle. Sans amp for violin. Sans amp is really cool. They probably made an amp at one time. Sans amp's well known for their rack mount guitar simulator. I made a pedal version.
Gerard and Ned, they were in Dorsey's briefly for that amp company.
Or was it Tech 21? Same company, yeah, right. Yeah.
Was it? Yeah.
Same company, yeah.
They built the Sans amp into it.
Yeah.
In the back. Oh, there's a Sans amp right in the chassis.
Yeah. Dave still uses Tech 21 amp, loves it.
Yeah.
And that's a versatile amp, that's for sure. Gary is also saying good things about the Sans amp pedal, maybe amplifier. Okay.
Yeah,
Just said something good about it. Yeah.
I remember playing around with them. They were good.
I would think an acoustic amp would be perfect, like a loud box. There we go. I was just saying that. a used Crate acoustic amp. Yes, I recommend Crate. Yeah, Crate's all right. People forget Crate.
There was I'm still shocked. There was a revival of the original wooden box crates that looked like crates.
Literally a crate.
Which were awful.
Awfully good. You had one, I remember, in the old store. You had one that was in the crate. It had a 12-inch speaker in it and a awful but awfully good, just really simple solid-state amp in it. And it had a huge sound. And you know who bought it?
No.
Jamie Brockett, the folk singer. I think it was because it was $75 and it was an amp and he was a hoarder.
Right.
But does anyone out there know Jamie Brockett, the Vermont folk legend? Our own New England Gordon Lightfoot?
You might take exception to that.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
You might prefer
our New England John
Dylan.
Prine. Yeah. Well, maybe more like our New England John Prine.
Maybe.
Because
he came in the store once. I have now sold 1 million records. Really? He said, yeah, it took 30 years.
Yeah. Jamie Brockett. Look him up on look him up. He's a character. I wonder what's become of Jamie Brockett. I've not seen him.
I think he's still around. Yeah. He's laying low. He's one of the many guys the pandemic just kind of put him into off mode.
Yeah, because he's just constantly touring folk singer. Yeah.
For 50 years, that's all he's done is play gigs. And all of a sudden, there are none. But
okay.
It was a great night seeing Jamie Brockett at the press room many years ago. I'd never seen him perform.
He's the real thing.
I was like, oh my God, this guy is really good. He's a powerhouse. He just takes over.
Yeah. Takes over the room. That was when I saw Tom Rush, who actually was in here recently. Tom Rush also lives in the area now. He's from here originally. And when I saw him play live, I'd always heard his music and stuff. And I saw him get up and do a song with a group. And it's like, wow, that's the real thing.
Right. That's the part I never got. Yes. Taking over. Well, you're pretty good at it.
Yeah, I have to tell you. Right, yeah, I had to.
Whenever I see your band, I'm always like, he's a force down there.
Yeah, well, that's. I guess you gotta remind yourself of that. That's what it is. You gotta. I guess I'm just out of practice on that lately. The last couple of years,
you gotta keep it up.
Yeah. Back to Jeff talking about the fiddle again. Sorry to bring the fiddle back, but what was the amp you recommended? I didn't catch the whole name. Fishman, Fishman, Loud Box Mini. They make the Loud Box Performer and the Loud Box Mini. We like the Mini better.
Yeah, and for home use, you don't need all the power of the other one.
Oh no, the other one's only just more powerful power amp.
Right.
But the great thing about those is also they have an XLR DI out the back. So you can be as loud as you need to and add powered speakers to get louder.
Right. Plug it into a PA.
I got one. I really like it. It's got some reverb and chorusy stuff built in. You can do vocal and an acoustic instrument into it. You can plug a archtop into it. Sounds all right. It's a versatile full range amp. But they're intended for acoustic instruments. But if you're playing a fiddle, even if you're using pedals, even if you get an electric sound, if you don't want to squeak and holler. And this week's episode of Fiddle Talk, you basically know everything we know about fiddles. We do actually restring fiddles and do basic adjustments here as well, if anyone's wondering.
I did come up with an idea. I saw a picture somewhere online of somebody bowing a bass, electric bass.
Yeah.
I thought, there is a way to do that.
Yeah,
it wouldn't be playable finger-wise. But
Well,
if you raise the action so high that you had that much
you'd need the radius
in the string, you could actually bow the whole thing.
Well, let me tell you this.
Be tough on the left hand.
A few days before, what was it, a month, well, maybe a couple weeks before the pandemic hit, I met with Ned Steinberger, and we were going to sell some of his instruments here. I came back with one of them. That sat here for a year, but still, I really like. He makes an electric upright, so it's called the Radius bass. Well, there's a couple of different ones, but he makes one. You can play it like an upright. It's got electric scale length, And you could play it with a bow if you had to. You want to. You can play it on a stand. You can play it sitting down.
You can play it this way too, horizontally.
Yeah, exactly. You can bow it horizontally.
Whatever.
So yeah. Hopefully we'll get the NS Instruments here at some point. Just got a little waylaid in that plan because he has the whole string family. Violins, cellos. We bought for a customer. We got an electric cello.
Yeah,
5-string electric cello for a steampunk band. It was pretty cool. Mike says I was a fan of Jamie in '69.
yeah.
Did a bass session with him in the studio in Rye around '95. Yeah.
Oh, what was the name of that? I can almost remember the guy's name. Picture him.
Yeah.
Had a couple memorable sessions there. But
Hello from the City of Angels, Los Angeles. What are your thoughts on the Vox guitars that came out in the late 2000s? Did you see any of those?
late 2000s.
Yeah, so
This is the
reissue of
early
Voxes.
2000s.
Late of the 00s.
Yeah, I know.
We're pretty early in the 2000s right now.
The double aughts.
Yeah, the aughts.
Did I see any of those? I'm not sure I did. Were they copies of the old 60s Voxes, like the Phantom and stuff?
Yeah, so that you might have stumped us on that one.
A lot of things don't make it up to New England much. Like nice weather in the winter.
So if my action is too low and buzzing near the nut, should I adjust the truss rod or raise the bridge?
Well, the truss rod first.
Yeah, this time of year.
You want your neck where it's supposed to be, which is a little bit of relief. If it's still buzzing, and assuming your strings aren't hitting the first fret, which means your nut is worn out, then raise the strings at the bridge.
Yeah, so this time of year, necks like the back bow because of the dryness in the winter here. And in Los Angeles, they don't have winter, but this is Keegan, who's not in Los Angeles.
And when you're done doing all that, check your intonation because all of that will throw your
intonation out. Yeah.
Intonation will last.
Check your neck straightness. You want it to be at minimum straight, but maybe a little relief, especially if you're talking about a bass. You say bass? Just said my action. Yeah. There's what we call the scoop of the neck that some guitarists, basses especially, like a lot of bass players like to have a little scoop, eliminate any chance for buzz.
Right.
The actual upright basses have them built into them, scoop. And so on a guitar, it's nice to have just a little bit. I like just a little bit of relief.
Yeah, whatever works. A lot of it depends on the frets.
Yeah, it depends.
If the frets are perfect, you can kind of do anything you want. If they're worn out, you got one choice. Just make it play.
People love the Vox Pathfinder. That's a good point. Those amps, great little amps, fun.
Oh, Vox Amps. I'm thinking guitars.
I am too. That's why he says. Any thoughts on the? Yeah, he said Vox guitars. Though.
Okay. Yeah. The amps we do see.
Amps, I see all the time, and we got one right here, the AC30.
Oh, that one. Somebody was playing through that last week. He was really interested.
See that there?
One little tube amp.
Can't see it from here, but
it's over there.
Yeah.
And I said, well, grab a guitar. He grabbed a strap, plugged into it, and I went over here, and he's playing. That thing sounds awful. I said, there's something wrong with that amp? I walked over. It was all adjusted all right. I said, you might want to try this with a humbucker guitar.
Uh-huh.
Okay. It's like, oh, sounds great. They don't particularly like single coil pickups, I don't think.
Well, I don't like because some people do play single, but it is a brutal sound.
Yeah.
It's just like, ow.
Yeah,
but some people go for that, that brutally. But yeah, with an SG through a Vox, that's good times.
Yeah.
It's Paul Weller. The Vox guitars are 335 Les Paul SG type guitars with unique pickups. Humbucker, P90, and single. Wow.
It's all of them.
So I guess Vox was, licensing these guitars to be made because they're, they make their amps in Asia now too.
I did see one. I remember opening up the case. It was on the bench. I went, oh, it's a Vox, like no other Vox I've ever seen. And I hardly even remember that.
So they could be kind of like the Hagstrom, made in Asia, Korea, for example, well made, but probably nothing like an old Vox. And people forget when we talk about Vox that their old guitars weren't that good.
You know who made the old Voxes?
There's
I totally forgot till somebody reminded me when he brought in one and handed it to me. Eco.
Yeah, Eco, the Italian company,
guys,
yeah,
who can't make a guitar to save their lives.
Yeah, right, yeah,
Oh, they made Voxes.
Yeah,
They're really cool.
Yeah,
Not very good.
Yep, yeah, there's you still see those Eco guitars around. Yeah, they're just not. I mean, they look cool as hell. When Brian Jones is playing one, he looks cool.
Yeah,
basses are probably fine because anyone can make a bass.
Right.
There's just a lot less involved in it. I'm like, goodness. But the teardrop looks so cool. Someone just commented. So here's an important question, actually. Dan's asking, how do I recognize when it's time to change strings?
do you want the stock answer?
Well, as a store that sells strings, no. Yeah. You tell me your opinion. I'll tell you mine too.
Well, in my opinion, old strings become somewhat useless when they get so stretched out they won't stay in tune. And you tune it up and you play and it's out of tune, and they're just not stable, and they sound bad. They lose all their sustain. They get thumpy, no bright, no high end. I think at that point you're past where you should have changed.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So I'd say
So
it depends on how much you play.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say probably 6 months max.
3 to 6 months, I'd say too.
If
Yeah,
you put them on and never touch them,
they're still going to tarnish. Yeah,
they're going to be tarnished and stretched out. So you throw them away, put on new strings. But if you play 6 hours a day, once a month, it's probably pretty realistic.
Yeah. Coated strings might last longer. They don't tarnish as much. They still get stretched out eventually. But you'll notice them, you can wait till they sound bad, or here's the thing: strings are cheap. I remember once in a while someone walks in who doesn't know about strings, and they're like, "I broke this string on my, my guitar," and I'll be, "Well, it looks like all your strings are pretty bad. You probably need a whole set of strings." And then they look at me like I'm trying to sell them a brake job at the dealership.
And you say how much they are.
Yeah, exactly. The entire set of strings is $8. And they're like,
the whole set
each? Like, no, all string. I mean, I'm like, they're like, how much are they? $8. And they're like, each? I'm like, no, the entire set of strings is $8. Right. Just change them all. It's probably the cheapest thing that's made by humans on a machine that you can buy. That's made in New York and shipped here, and cheapest thing on earth, really.
A good thing to keep in mind when changing strings too, which a lot of players do not like brand new strings.
Not on bass, especially.
Or guitar. I mean, there is a couple of days of stretching out, so they're kind of a pain constantly stretching before they settle in. But I know a lot of guys, a week before the gig, they change their strings because that first week is brutal. They don't like it.
I change my bass strings once every 10 years, whether they need it or not. I can go about good 5 years on a set of strings.
I don't know if I've ever gone more than 5 without breaking some of them.
Yeah. But I also sometimes put U strings on my bass just so that I don't have to go through that that annoying bright bass sound. Bass. Yeah, especially a Fender bass. It's all bright anyways. Right. Yeah. So every once in a while, someone comes in the store and with a bass and they go, restring this. And I'll be like, the strings are fine. But he's like, restring it. Like, okay.
I want new strings.
And so we'll just take those strings and set them aside somewhere. And then when I need new strings.
Yeah, I found a good used set. I put on that Fernandez.
Yeah, we got a $99 Fernandez bass here.
With brand new used strings.
Yeah, with some used strings we put on it.
Probably
and we
only played
set
for
it
an
up.
hour.
Yeah. We set it up. And because a set of strings is half of what the damn thing's worth.
Right.
But just, we put $60 worth of work and $40 worth of strings into your $99.
A lot of the ones I do are, especially for bass, some guitars, they're Asian made and they have the Asian strings
still on it. Yeah.
I haven't even plugged it in. I just want some Ernie balls.
Yeah.
I know this is not going to work until you put good strings on it. So.
And it's true. Even the Fender guitars, you put Ernie balls or Daderas on it, and they're better already. I mean, the strings they put on them are fine.
Yeah.
They're here in the store or whatever. They're just going to get used.
For a beginner or something, they won't know the difference.
The Vox teardrop looked cool, and then someone said, "Remember the quarter moon shaped guitars,
like a crescent moon?"
Yeah, I guess the crescent.
Quarter moon.
That's vaguely familiar.
Like a slice of that's a half moon.
My wife uses Elixir bass strings and changes them every few months. She's killing me.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's the way.
$50 a set.
I know that's the way.
Those
Straight
are
to the
not
poorhouse.
cheap.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, she likes bright strings. Yeah.
well, maybe the best bass player of all time never changed his
Yeah,
strings.
James Jamerson.
I think he boiled them every year or two. He'd take them off, throw them in boiling water, just get the crud out.
Yeah.
Um,
But no, he told his son when he gave him his bass, never clean them. He was never clean them.
Oh, don't clean them.
That's where the funk is.
Oh, maybe
like
it was
literally,
Jocko that boiled them.
Yeah. He said, don't clean these strings because that's where the funk is. Now, someone stole his bass. Can you imagine that? Jamerson's bass is missing. Someone stole
it is
it.
currently missing? Because his
Yeah,
son's
that's
had it
years
for
ago.
a long time.
His son had it for a long time, but it was stolen. I do believe.
Huh.
Did
he leave it laying around?
I don't know what happened, but
that
bass is
$1 million
missing.
bass, huh?
Yeah, that bass was on a lot of hits, and so yeah. So you never had to change bass strings. So tell your wife about James Jamerson. Played on all the Motown hits for all the way through the 60s and into the 70s, and then never changed the strings.
Yeah, I would change my Elixir bass strings after 4 years just because I was afraid they might start breaking.
Yeah, I had 35 years on my Silvertone bass strings when you guys sold it. And actually, Ken Allen bought it, so I might still have them on there.
Right.
Yeah, I think that one Ken.
Up to 40 now.
Yeah, good times. Can you boil guitar strings?
Sure.
Yeah,
Not the plastic ones.
Yeah. Yes, but don't. Why? Because let me tell you, they're so cheap. I just got done explaining. It costs nothing.
Yeah, it
and
might be a waste of energy.
There's no real benefit. And Eddie Van Halen used to boil the strings before he used them, I think.
Oh. Okay.
But so when you boil strings, this is what happens. Metal has memory. So that's why if you take a spring like a strut, a car spring off your car, and just let it sit for 10 years, it will go back to where it used to be. It won't be a worn out spring anymore. So metal will want to eventually go back to this form it was shaped into. So that's what's called metal memory. And your strings want to go back to being tightly wound. And if you boil them, you bring them up in temperature, they'll want to go back into that tightly wound shape. So that's what rejuvenates strings by boiling them.
Well, so not the plain strings.
The plain strings are not wound, yeah.
Right.
So that wouldn't matter as much.
Well, it might tighten up the wrap, so they'd be less likely to
Maybe,
come apart.
but it's just a slight thing too.
Right.
Don't.
Whatever works.
But yeah, guitar strings. Our bass strings are like a timing belt. Change them once after 70,000 gigs. Yeah. Yeah, you just
they will break eventually.
Eventually, I've broken some strings, not at a gig. Brian Coleman broke his low E at a gig.
No, I did that. Oh, I did it.
That is just like the party's over when the bass player doesn't have a low E string.
That's the night I learned I'm in charge.
Yeah,
we were playing a song. The entire bass part was on the low E, A down to F. Do 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 do. The crowd is up dancing like crazy, and my string breaks.
Yeah.
I look up, the crowd is frozen. The rest of the band hadn't stopped. Okay, I tuned up my A string and got back, and then just played it on there. And okay, they started dancing again. I said, wait a minute. If I stop, they stop.
Yeah.
You guys are useless. They can stop whenever they want. Nobody cares.
Yeah, right.
Bass stops.
Bass stops.
Bad,
Something
bad.
bad happened. Yeah. The bass suddenly stops.
Almost
Bass
as bad
never
as the
stops.
bass solo is bad.
The Brian Coleman. Yes, the Brian Coleman. Michael knows Brian, I guess.
Yeah.
I know that guy.
Back in 1969, probably.
Yeah, back in. So I was gonna say another. Oh, so I was playing. Was that a gig or not? I was playing my upright and broke the A string. It's pretty hard to work around, but I somehow figured out it was the ball that broke off, and by flipping the string upside down, I could tie because it's an upright. I could tie that end that has the skinny part on it, and then put it back on up here. And I got it going again. I think I left that like that for years.
Sure.
Because upright strings were real expensive.
Even more expensive.
Back in the 90s, I had no money.
Right.
I broke a G string on my bass at a gig. the low E, 0.046 from a guitar player, stayed on there for a long time. Yeah. So you put a guitar string on there.
45, 46.
Yeah.
Back in the disco days, slapping and popping days, G strings had a short lifespan.
Yeah. The slap and the pop.
Right. Nobody does that anymore.
Well, it depends what kind of style of music. But yeah, the kids don't pop.
Everybody was doing it.
Yeah. But even you got to look up Thundercat.
I did. I saw them.
Yeah. This guy is it's a big throwback. He's kind of like a Bootsy kind of thing where he's just like but just like melody, counter melody, counterpoint, melody, everything all on the, but a groovy player too, and plays on a lot of sessions. And, so. Mike Watt from the Minutemen broke a lot of bass strings. Yes. Mike Watt is brutal on the bass. And he played an SG bass or something too. Like that's
Mike Watt.
The Minutemen, but he was one of those Seattle guys, from the 90s.
Guys.
Yeah. Proto grunge.
I remember the name, but
and he's playing an SG bass, and I think those are designed. If I was going to create a contraption that could break bass strings, it would basically be an SG bridge. So, but yeah, there are bass players who break strings regularly, but be nice to your bass. Whew, there's a bass tangent.
String tangent.
I rejuvenate my strings by replacing them, says Ed. Many of them were from California. Yeah, sorry. But all those Seattle guys actually came from California. If you think, look at like Mother Love Bone guys who moved up there and the Minutemen.
No.
I think they ended up in Seattle. And so I think I'm still not totally wrong calling them a Northwest grunge era band.
Who's the Boston guy who only plays one string on his
Two strings. The guy from Treat Her Right, right?
Is that right? Treat Her Right.
You remember that? It was Treat Her Right, and then they became
Morphine.
Yes,
okay. Yeah. That band. Yeah, 2-string bass.
Yeah, 2 strings. So he passed away. Yeah, the 2 lowest strings.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know that.
Yeah, he had. So there was Treat Her Right. You might remember were a blues, like R&B group, kind of like the
vaguely. All I can think of is this song from the 60s.
Yeah, well, they named themselves after that. Yeah, and they were more like they had horns and stuff like that, and then they changed. They turned into Morphine, which is 3-piece baritone, sax, bass, and drums. I think. Yeah, and that was something very different. The Kids Don't Pop. There's a song title. Yeah, Kids Today. Marc Sandman. Yes. So a bunch of people from around here knew him from back in the day, and it's pretty legendary around here. But he died too young, for sure. And that was a great band. Both bands were great, actually. They were, not a lot of people remember Treat Her Right, but that was a thing. Look them up. All right, let's catch up with the room here. I think we're just about caught up. Any other business for today?
Almost done.
Yeah. So today flew by a bit, though. So just to recap, don't throw out your Russian tubes. Electro Harmonics manufactures them in Russia, but they're not bad. It's not a Kremlin-run company.
It's not owned by a Russian oligarch.
No, it's not owned by a Russian oligarch. Nice people work in the factory. They,
Actually, Mike Matthews, I think, is famous for treating his employees well.
Treats them pretty well, as far as, especially in that small town. Saratov was not small, but it's a city with no industry. And they like Mike, even though he doesn't, he's legendary in that city because he treats them all right. And so don't take any revenge on Russian tubes. What other points do we? Don't play fiddle through a guitar amp.
Right.
What other things? Just to summarize, don't Fishman Loudbox Mini for fiddle.
Don't change your bass strings every 6 months.
Don't change your bass strings ever, especially elixirs. My goodness. So, anything else to add, folks? If not, we'll bid you adieu. For now, you've been watching Guitar Talk. Watch our other videos here on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. Say hi, come by the store, buy something, don't buy something. Just look at things and check us out online and other places. And stand by for the end.
Yes.
This is the end.
My only friend.
The end.